Card games are often classified as difficult to learn due to the many and complicated rules that come from playing the genre. On top of that, the many mechanics in the game makes it difficult for newcomers as they'll feel overwhelmed. Such is the case with many card games, but what if I were to tell you that this isn't exactly the case with Fire Emblem Cipher? If you've been a fan of Fire Emblem from the very start, then this card game is actually relatively easy to pick up. But before we jump into how to read Fire Emblem Cipher cards and how to play the game, there's a few key words that I want to go over. The first thing is tap, switching the card to a horizontal position to show that your card has performed an action. Tap is used to show that you have used your resources. All tap cards will come back at the start of your next turn. For those that have played Magic the Gathering, it's like tapping land. Once per turn is a text indication that shows a skill can be used once every turn. While at first the Fire Emblem Cipher cards seems like a massive blast of information at your face, it's quite easy to understand. Let me break it down for you. Going from top to bottom of the text-based stuff, the uppermost line is the card quote. These are usually unimportant and add more character to the cards. Next are the skills. I'll go more in depth with these later, but just know that the larger white box is a primary skill, or just referred to as skill, and the smaller box is a support skill. Under that you can see more character information including the name, title, and class of the character. Also there you can see the range of the card. Ranges nearly always correspond to what the range of the user would be in the main Fire Emblem games. Bows are 2 range, swords are 1 range, and magic is 1 to 2 ranges. Ranges will make more sense in context with the board layout. Moving back to the top of the card, there is a large circle with a number. This is the deployment cost of the unit. These vary depending on the class and strength of the unit. They act as a way of balance, making sure no one uses an Anakos while all you have is a Mozu. Below the number icons are the icons that relate back to the card. For instance, the card would indicate what faction that card is a part of, what the characters' genders are, what weapons they use, etc. The most important is the faction, but that can be generally known through the color of the card. The icons will relate back to skills most of the time, so keep an eye on that whenever possible. Moving back down the card, you can see 2 circles with numbers. These are the attack and supports of the unit respectively. Attack dictates how much damage a unit can take and deal, while support is used when assisting an ally with a defense or attack. These along with skills are arguably the most important part of the card, so I recommend that you try and synergize these when building a successful deck. Now let's take a look at a promoted Cherish. This is very similar to the unpromoted card except for one important thing. Under the deployment cost there is a smaller number called a promotion cost. This is the cost of promoting a character that's already being used, which is why it costs less to promote than just to place. Another thing that you may have noticed is the variety in colors that each card takes. These colors represent factions. For instance, all the GBA Fire Emblem games are all in the color purple, while all the Tellius cards are in green. Here is the full list of all the colors and their factions. While the Fire Emblem Cipher board looks intimidating at first, trust me, it isn't as intimidating as it looks as long as you understand the basics of Fire Emblem gameplay. But let's break down what each of these zones do. The deck zone is where you'll be placing your deck. Once your deck is depleted, you will take the cards in your retreat zone, shuffle it, and put it back into your deck. Retreat area is where you'll be putting all the cards that have fallen into battle or have used as resources into. Support area is where all your supporting units will go to. After each battle, a card that was used as a support will go into the retreat area. When the support is failed, the support card will also end up going into the retreat area afterwards. Orb area is where all your orbs will go to. Orbs act like prize cards in Pokemon, and if all your orbs are depleted, you lose the game. Orbs are placed in the orb area after you draw your 5 cards. The next 5 cards will be placed face down into your orb area. Every time your main lord takes damage, you take a card from this area. You lose when there are no more orbs to take and your lord takes damage. Bond area is where you place all your bond cards in whenever possible. Bonds will be used for certain effect cost and to deploy certain cost units. Frontline area is where you'll be placing a lot of your main units down. This is where both lords will go to at the start of the game, and through effects you can move them around. You can place as many units as you want into this zone. Backline area is another place where you can place your units. Though this is where most ranged units will get placed, for example archers and mages, the units placed in the backline area will be able to target units in the frontline area without fear of retaliation. But if there are no frontline area units, then you'll be forced to march forward into the frontline area where all the backline area units will get moved up. Boundless, aka Mugen area, acts like the banished zone in Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards that go into the Boundless area cannot be shuffled back into the deck as they are not in the retreat area. Cards that go here are permanently out of the game unless card effect states so. Think of this like permadeath in Fire Emblem. Cipher decks require you to have at least 50 cards in your deck. You're allowed to bring more than 50 cards, but it's recommended that you bring the bare minimum so that you have better odds of pulling the cards that you need. Additionally, you can only have 4 copies maximum of a single card in your deck. That means I can have 4 of these Cherish cards, but I cannot have 5 in my deck. And unless they're stated to be the same card, you can have as many different art Cherishes in a single deck. Having character diversity though is highly recommended. Your main lord character will always also have to be a 1-cost card. For example, this Marth can be the main lord character of your deck, but this 2-cost variant cannot be the main lord of your deck. Keep this in mind when deck building. I'll go in depth on this in a separate video, so if this is what you're here for, be on the lookout for future parts.